So Simon,
Hi, Howard.
congratulations on passing your part 3. So you
Thank you
passed
again.
that on Thursday,
Yes, I
and
did.
today's
Yeah.
Monday, and I haven't spoke to you properly since. I phoned you up to
No.
say well done, and you've kindly agreed to do a little interview on the Zoom so we can share this with other people in your position, just to kind of find out what it was like, what your test was like, and what your journey up to the tests was like. So if I hand it over to you, so if you could just sort of share with you your story on like your training.
Okay.
Let's start with your training. How was your training?
So originally I started with a different national company,
All right.
which let me down after passing my part 2. They wanted me to travel absolutely miles to get my next trainer for the part 3, which I wasn't happy about.
So you did a
That's
part
when I
2
then,
with them,
yep,
and to do your next attempt, you'd have to travel. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah. I
To
don't
some
mind
more
traveling
training.
a little while, but all the way down to Ipswich to do the 40 hours of training in Ipswich was not ideal, shall we say.
Got it. Okay,
So
because you're in Lowestoft.
yeah, I'm in lower stuff, yeah.
That's
So to Ipswich is quite a distance.
yeah.
So that's when I then got in contact with yourself about joining a drive. Went on and done the online course.
Yeah. So we're just going back to your part 2. So you had a bit of training with us, and yeah, which attempt did you pass your part 2 on?
Part 3 attempts. Yep. So
On the
I
third
failed
attempt.
twice. Yeah, on the 3rd attempt. Yeah. So the first attempt was an error by myself. Didn't see the change of speed sign as I was coming off a roundabout. Crept 4 miles over the speed limit, and yeah, automatic fail there. So that was my fault. Took that one on the chin.
Got it. So we helped you get through your part 2, and then
Yeah.
you started the part 3 training, and you did our online training course before you got in car with us. So just tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, cool. So we've done the online course, done what they call the skills videos,
Yeah,
and then went on to do subjects videos.
that's right. Yeah.
It was about 30 hours in total.
And
I
who was your
think.
trainer? We should mention your trainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that in mind to give him a big thank you during this anyway, Mr. Blair Wilson. Thank you very much, Blair. Top man. Hope we'll catch up again one day and I'll buy you a pint.
So you did your online training. Takes you about 30 hours to do that?
Yeah, it's about 30 hours, yeah, to do the skills and the subjects.
That's it. And then we got you in car with Blair for your in-car training. Did you find the online training helped you sort of hit the ground running when you got into car?
Yeah, massively. Yep. Saves so much time when you get into the car that you've already got all that knowledge. It's already up there. So yeah, really big help to do that before getting in car.
Brilliant. And so, and you, as we all know, you've done your part 3. Now, what attempt was that?
Now that was first attempt.
Very good.
Yeah, real chuffed.
So yeah, not many people pass the part 3 on their first attempt. So that's yeah. No, and what did the examiner sort of say to you about that?
Well, as in being my first attempt?
First time, I think it was.
Yeah.
Was he quite
well, I still couldn't believe it when he actually said that I passed, but he was like, yeah, there's not many that do pass first attempts. It's, so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't go into the statistics of
Yeah. So since you taking your test, I saw you the day before in Lowestoft. They come up and sat in on a lesson and give you some last minute tips.
Yes,
and since then I haven't spoke to you about what happens. Like I didn't, about you. Yeah. So would you like to share your story about what happened on the day? What your pupil did, what your subject was, all of that kind of stuff.
So my pupil, Jake, fantastic pupil, really held his nerve well. was always asking questions, always talking through stuff as he was doing it, which really helped him a lot to ease his nerves.
Yeah.
But was the ideal pupil to take. I've only got 6 pupils because I only do it part-time on the pink license.
Yeah.
But he was the best of the 6 pupils that I had, and performed marvelous on the day.
So what was the plan when you went up there with him? What were you?
Yeah. So
what were you
lesson before was roundabouts, left turns, straight aheads, and the lesson on the day was to do right turns, which he hadn't done before. So that was a new subject for him. So we done a full briefing in the car park next to the test centre.
So before you picked up the examiner?
Yeah, before we picked up the examiner.
Gone through all your briefing, got all that out of the way, got it, yeah.
Gone through all the briefing, yeah. We'd gone out and done, made our way to the loop of 3 roundabouts. I'd done a sort of full talk through for the first loop, which he was all fingers and thumbs, which was great because it was something new for him. You know, timing of signals and mirrors was out. So we then made our way back to the car park near the test centre, had another little briefing before picking up the examiner, and agreed to do the next loop as prompt, because he found it more confusing as I was talking to him was going around a roundabout. So we agreed that we would go straight to prompt instead of another loop of independent or another loop of full talk through.
Yeah.
And see how we would get on with prompt, and then we would just manage it from there and see how we got on. Yeah, so then we agreed that. So then we
went and got the examiner.
Went and picked up the examiner. Yep. So we went in the waiting room. Jake came with me into the waiting room. And I was sat there like 10, 15 minutes. I must have been really early, but I was sat there waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's the first time I've been in there because I've not had a pupil get to the stage of me having to go into the test centre. So it was all moved around. There's other instructors sitting in there, and my little heart was going a little, you know. I thought, you know, my other line of work, I'd rather deal with a lot of them at work, but sitting there in that little room, it's like me, and my little heart was going a thing that was. So yeah, I started panicking when I was sitting there waiting for so long. If that had only been a couple of minutes, I'd have been all right. But it was like 10, 15 minutes sitting in there waiting.
Yeah.
But then he comes out and gets his little iPad out and gets us to do a little read and sign this and whatnot. Then he introduces himself to Jake, who was in there with me. Made a little joke about him not biting, you know, and that just sort of set the tone a little bit. He made a little bit of a joke about us, you know, step forward, I don't bite, that sort of thing.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Just made a little joke because obviously he saw how nervous we both were, and that just sort of broke the ice, if you like. And you know, that was a nice little start, to be fair.
Oh yeah, good, nice touch.
Yeah. So then we come out of the test centre, made our way to the car. He asked a couple of questions about my training.
Did he ask to see your training log?
Yeah, I had the folder. Yeah, so I had my folder with me.
Yeah.
He asked who I'd done my training with. So I mentioned that I'd done it with this other company first, but left them, joined How to Drive, done me 40 hours with Blair, done me extra 20 hours with another couple of ADIs, and had 2 or 3 lessons with yourself. And you haven't heard this yet, but he then turns around and said, "Oh, I love Howard. He's really good. I love what he does." Yeah. You know, I love watching his videos, and I love what How to Drive do. So you're a star.
All right. Okay. I haven't met. Yeah. Oh, so it's good job you passed. Imagine if you were
So you know, just straight away that was just.
Hey, wait, Blair's taking the credit for this one.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, so then he asked a couple of questions about Jay, what we had planned. So we went through what we had planned, what we'd done so far. Even though that was outside of the car, I thought we would do that as like the recap, but he just asked a couple of questions before we got in the car. Yeah, so then we got in the car. He does his little speech and then hands it over to me. And then I'm ready to do our recap and set the wheels going.
And was the speech, I want a client-centered lesson, get me back here in 45 minutes?
Get me, well, he actually said the time. He didn't say, like, get me back in 45 minutes. He said the time.
So and so. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest, Howard, I forgot what that time was halfway through the lesson.
Yeah, they're going to help.
I had to have a moment of thinking, oh, what time did I need to get back? Oh, yeah, that was right. So I just had a little moment of forgetting what the time was. So always remember that time. Quick tip. Yeah, so.
Just on that, the examiner would say, hey, you need to be heading back. But they're not going to let you be late.
No.
So if you was off to do another loop that's going to take 10 minutes, they'd be like, hey, time to be heading back.
Yeah.
So you don't, if you forget, you don't need to worry too much.
Yeah. But that was just.
So yeah. So yes, what in like briefly, what kind of, you had a plan. Did the plan go to plan, or did you end up doing something different?
No, the plan went to plan, to be fair. Yeah. So I had a little, let me show you. I had a little sheet.
Oh, very good. Let's have a look. Is that your plan?
So that would have been my little speech of talking about his responsibilities, my responsibilities, dynamic risks. But I had it written down all in bullet point on a clipboard, had it on a clipboard, but I didn't use it. So I didn't use it. It's stuff that we should use, and we do use every lesson anyway. But it was just there. If I had a brain freeze, it was just there in case I needed it. And I made a point of not looking at it and not having it facing me. So I sort of stuck it between my knees. So the examiner could see that I wasn't looking at it. I wasn't repeating anything that's been scripted. But if I needed
you didn't read a script.
Yeah. So, yeah. So
you had a conversation.
Yeah. So
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jake answered all the questions right. He's just brilliant. Jake, I can't say any more. So yeah, so we went through our thing, got him to start the car. He then does his safety checks of making sure it's in park, making sure the handbrake is on, making sure the brakes were in good order, and the steering wheel was good to use. So he's done his safety checks, and then he does his pom routine brilliantly. Cautiously moves out of the test center, get up that ramp at the top of the test center in Lowestoft. There's like a ramp, isn't there, where you have to come to a complete stop, do your little peep and creep, and get out into the new road. And he does all of that perfectly, not one little fault anywhere. So I praised him on that when we come along after coming out of the ramp. I praised him a little bit on what he'd just done, and then made a little joke of, if only we could finish the test there. To which I look in the mirror, and the examiner's got a little smile on his face as well, and Jake had a little laugh as well, so just sort of eased the tension a little bit. But
yeah,
I was feeling so nervous at this point. I think I was so sort of not quite overwhelmed, but it was like, it's real now, let's get going. So we then make our way to the loop of roundabouts. On the way, Jake does miss one sort of new road, new mirror check. So I pull him up on that, on the move, obviously. And he answers all the questions right. So that was good. We dealt with that little mirror miss. Then we get to the roundabouts. We've agreed prompt. So we're going along doing a prompt. I'm getting all the instruction before we get to the roundabout, as to not be saying anything whilst he's going around a roundabout. And it probably took him about 2 loops to master it, because he was getting a lot of signals and mirrors sort of mistimed. Steering wasn't so smooth going around and roundabout. So after each roundabout we came off, we spoke about it. How did that go? How can we improve that? So we didn't wait too long before trying to fix those little things. And it probably took about 2 loops to get the whole thing sort of quite nailed down.
So were there any needs? Were there any like faults that he
So-
made that, in addition to that, that you needed to look at and?
Yeah. So after
Yeah,
the 2 loops, and he's done them quite well, we then say, okay, shall we move on to independent? And are you happy to do them now, independent, straight away? He agreed, yes, he was. So I then leave it over to him, just give him the directions, and he now does the loops independent. But he is missing those safe gaps.
Got it. So he's hesitating.
So he's hesitating, yeah. And we spoke about it in the briefing about what signs we need to look for, you know, the blockers, the signals, position, speed, all that kind of things. And we talk about that as we're going around. So as we're going around, I'm asking him, what are you looking for? And he nails it. He gives me all the answers back.
Yeah.
But just as we're sort of doing the last loop or two, because time is now starting to run out,
Yeah.
the traffic is gone. There's hardly any traffic about at all. So there's not much chance for us to nail getting that safe gap sorted. Because it's like each roundabout we then came to, there was nothing to the right. It was pretty much straight and go. So we didn't get a chance to nail that part down, which I'll speak about in the feedback a little bit later on.
Right.
So at this point, we've got about 14, 15 minutes left. And I know that it takes about 11 minutes to get back to the test centre and leave enough for the debrief at the end. So I've got 3 or 4 minutes that I need to kill. So I'm thinking, at this point, I'm starting to think that I'm failing a little bit because I'm not challenging him enough.
Right.
So I'm sort of failing on that it's not value for money sort of side of it. So I'm thinking I can't really take him up the dual carriageway because we haven't got enough time to leave where we are. I've got the dual carriageway where it's busier and then come back again. So I says to Jake, when we get to the next roundabout, we'll turn left and then we'll head back towards the test centre. But no one full mind that when we get there, we will be too early. So what I was planning to do was just to get him to do a little left loop of junctions, left turns and junctions, and that'll kill about 3 minutes, and that'll be enough time to get back to the test centre. So we do that, we turn left at the next roundabout, make our way down towards the test centre. But we just ask him to turn left at the next road, which will take us onto a little loop of left junctions. Just as he turned in there, there's this little meet and greet situation that he hasn't quite judged. And he tries to move out of the way and he just clips the curb with the back wheel, doesn't he? And I'm like, my first thought was like, oh no, why now? You've done this now, just as we're going back to the test centre. But then that was, oh no, let's talk about it. Great, excellent, you made a mistake. So we quickly spoke about it. I'll let him deal with the meet and greet situation, let him get through there. And the plan was to take the next left, go up the road and then stop on the side. But there wasn't enough time to actually stop, do the talk through and then get back to the test centre. So I said to Jake, we'll stick that one in the memory bank, Jake. We'll go back to the test centre and then we'll talk about it when we get back there. Are you okay with that? Yeah, he was happy with that. So we timed it, get back to the test centre just about right with about 3 minutes to go. So pulls up, I get him to do a forward bay park into a space, secure the car. We then talk about the mistake that he made with the meet and greet situation and why he clipped the curb, talked about the consequences, and we said we didn't have time to go fix it now, but as soon as the examiner leaves, we'll then go and do that situation again and see if we can nail it. Answered all the questions right, and that was brilliant. So that was your see it, say it, sort it sort of incident there.
Got it.
Although we would sort it up after the examiner left.
So that was the end of the test, and
So
then
that was the
just
end of the test. Yeah.
then you had to wait, what, 15 minutes? Was it 15 minutes he took to get you the result?
Yeah, he said give him 10 minutes and then sort of make our way back into the test centre, which is what we did. Yeah, so
Cool.
got in there. Jake came with me, a couple of minutes, sitting there sweating, me thinking that I'd failed because I haven't really delivered on the value for money because I was thinking that I hadn't stretched him enough. But he calls me in.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, take a seat. Anyone will do. I thought he was joking again. I turned around. There's only one seat there. I said, I'll take this one then. And literally before I even had a chance to sit down, he just says, well, Simon, I have to tell you, you've passed. And I was just like,
Brilliant.
no way. I was like absolutely shocked. And I said, no way. I really thought I'd failed. And he was like, why would you think you were failed? That was a really good lesson. I was like, are you joking? He said, no, why do you think you failed? And I said, well, I thought that I didn't deliver on value for money, that I didn't stretch him enough. And he said that was the perfect lesson for him. He obviously hadn't done right turn at roundabouts. You could see that from the start when he was all fingers and thumbs and, you know, steering all over the place. But you got him to independent and he did do it. But then he says the difference between ADI and PDI, if that was an ADI standards check, he would have expected to alter the plan and go off somewhere and then challenge him for the last part. He said, but because you're a PDI, we do judge and mark you different from a PDI to an ADI. So that was really good feedback to hear that. All the PDIs that are now got this coming up, you know, keep that in your mind that you are being marked as a PDI and not an ADI. So that was one of my big worries
That's
as well.
good to hear.
So yeah, so I wanted to make a point of that.
So he'll expect a little bit more from you as an ADI when you do your standards check.
As an ADI, he would have expected us to go off and find a busy roundabout and challenge him a little bit more, yeah, just to finish off that last little value for money part. So that was really good feedback there, yeah.
Any other little?
So now I'm like in shock and really happy, but
did he give you any other little tips or advice?
Yeah, one I'm kicking myself about as well. So junctions, open, closed. Roundabouts, open, closed. Obviously, most of them are open, aren't they? And I didn't say that as we were going around when he was hesitating. I didn't mention about open junctions, open roundabouts, transfer the skills over. If I'd have said that, I'd have had an easy 2 or 3 marks more than what I got. We mentioned it in the briefing earlier, but I just didn't mention it.
So if it was an open junction, what would you be getting Jake to do differently if it's open? What would the implication be of it being open?
Just being open, he can take earlier observations and he can, you know, he's preparing to stop, looking to go, using his ladder, using all the routines. And he knows all them routines, but I just didn't get it out of him, you know, so that's my bad. And that's an easy 2 or 3 marks that, you know, I've missed out on there. But he did give me a good feedback as well, which is big thanks to yourself, Howard. So if you can remember the lesson that we had the day before. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Can you remember me saying, or you saying, that when they're indicating to come off to the left, make sure, if it's safe to do so, move over to the left?
Yes.
So I made a point of saying that and getting him to check his door mirror and little look. If it's safe, move over. He made a point of saying, well done for mentioning that and making sure that he knew the consequences or how to deal with it if something was coming round and what we could do. That's it, because a lot of time that part gets missed.
That's it, because prior to that, you were saying, right, Jake, or it was a different pupil, check your mirrors, signal, move over. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah. If it's safe. I made a point.
If it's safe, because now they've got to look.
Yeah.
Move over.
Yeah. So thank you for that. You got me a couple of points there. So brilliant.
Well, that was good. Good. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, thanks. So don't forget to apply for your green badge.
No, I won't.
12 months to do that. So yeah, so brilliant. Get that done, and I'll wrap this up. So thanks. I really appreciate your time for
Can I
sharing
just say a
that.
couple more things, if that's okay?
Sorry?
Can I just say a couple more things, if that's okay?
I
Thank
thought you
you.
was have you got a thank you list? Like it's like you just want
Well,
to
I
not.
just want to say about the examiner, because the $6 million question is from everybody. They want to know
Yeah.
what the examiner is like. So I can't praise him highly enough on the way he made me feel and the way he gave back the positive and how to improve things, which all came over in a positive way, not a negative way. So everybody, I think, rest assured, you've got a good examiner for when you go for your part
Well, that's
3
good to
or
hear, and that will put a lot of
yeah.
people's mind at
Yep.
ease. So, because
Yeah.
he's a new examiner to us. So,
Yep. And one more
yeah,
little thank you.
yeah.
Can I just thank a couple of ADIs that have helped me massively recently, to Wayne and to Mitch. You've both helped me a great deal in the last few months, and to Jamie as well, because you were the first one who let me get in the back of your car, and we've had many chats and messages recently as well. Thank you to you as well. Thank you.
Oh,
Good luck to everybody.
yeah. No, thanks for doing that. And they'll appreciate that. And yeah, we try and work as a team, get everyone helping each other, because yeah, it kind of works that way, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's good to have the support out there. You need that support because you need someone to turn to. So
And
hopefully I can help anybody as well in the future.
and could I call upon you to take any PDIs so they can sit in on one of your lessons and see a client-centered lesson?
Yep, no problem at all. Happy with that.
Magic. Good.
Yeah,
That'd be really good because
yeah.
yeah. Now you're an ADI.
Now I'm an ADI, yeah. And now I can hand my notice in tomorrow, and that's what I'm looking forward most, going back into work tomorrow and hand my notice in. Sorry, I can't stop smiling. I'm so happy right now.
Brilliant. Well, it's good to see, and yeah, and thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Pleasure.